Happy new moon in Pisces. Let's talk about this specific transit, the events leading up to it, and how it's going to affect you and your human design body graph. So, two of the transits that are going to be influencing this new moon in Pisces, kind of giving to a flavor of the way we want to use this new moon to manifest, especially those of you who are in my Patreon and did my full moon and Leo manifestation circle. It's kind of like a funny spin on the word because the new moon or the full moon is a time to release, whereas the new moon is a time to manifest. The full moon helps us release what no longer serves us. And two things that are going to flavor that February 20th, we have Mercury squaring Jupiter. So this is a time where it's going to be a little bit foggy, but also give us a lot of excited expansion, almost like a kid in a candy store. What can we do? I want to rush to do things. Watching out for overly rushing to get to your destination, right? Not rushing too quickly is going to be really important. Followed by February 25th, we have Mercury conjunct Saturn, which is basically saying, all those big ideas that you had on February 20th, well, here 5 days later is the time or when it's the appropriate time for you to get more grounded in what you're going to do about it. Saturn, I always say, is a disciplinarian. It's one of my favorite planets because it is my chart ruler. So I am the person that's going to say, okay, this is your big lofty goal, but here's the homework. Here's what you have to do to show yourself that you have to be disciplined in order to get what you want out of it. I'm not the astrologer or the human design reader that's going to tell you that you don't have to put in effort. This isn't about passivity here. One other bonus I won't forget to mention, because a lot of us have been talking about this transit, is Mars retrograde in the sign of Cancer. So finally, officially wrapping a bow on it, February 23rd, really February 24th is when you'll start to feel it remove itself, going direct in the sign of Cancer. It's what are the things that you have been unable to get going? It feels like you take one step forward, two steps back, doing this kind of tango with Mars right now. And what are the things that you want to concretize, that you want to get more disciplined again, right? The famous buzzword on the 25th, right? The things that you can get a little bit more clarity on. And think about, okay, this is what I want. This is what's been a little murky, but I've been consistent with it. Even if I haven't made the progress I've wanted to make during Mars retrograde, how can I move the needle forward officially and a little bit more of a faster pace, or with a more even tempo? That'll feel a little bit easier, and then leads us to be able to take some action, plant some official seeds of manifestation on February 28th, really the evening of February 27th for my East Coasters, my fellow New York people, to move ourselves forward. So without further ado, let's look at our human design body graph to see what the new moon is going to be flavoring us with and how we are going to feel its effects on February 28th. So something that I don't think a lot of people know is that whenever we have a new moon, it's always going to be in the same sign that our sun is in. So when the new moon is in Pisces, like this one is, it's because we're in Pisces season. New moon in Leo, Leo season, so on and so forth. It's different with the full moons, as you notice during Aquarius season, full moon in Leo, the sign that says opposite of the zodiac. So just another fun tip for my fellow astrology buffs to kind of look at. And this is the snapshot because I'm an East Coaster, New York being the biggest city right in this area. We want to look at what's kind of happening in this area during this time. And I know a lot of you guys that watch my videos and my tutorials and my Patreon are East Coast in some way, shape, or form, right? So when we're looking at the six gates of Pisces, right, that the new moon is flavoring or could flavor, when it is specifically affected, it's 7 p.m., 7:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the moon is going to be in gate 37, which is right here on our personality side. Everything that's on our personality side is correlated to what's happening at the snapshot moment, either for your birth or the time that you pull, in gate 37. And a lot of you that have worked with me, that do work with me, tend to have this placement. Gate 37 is the gate of friendship and family. So what's interesting about this placement is that because there is so much of an emphasis on family, friendship, the people that you keep around you, as well as our North Node also being in Pisces, and a couple other placements, we have Saturn and Neptune all in Pisces at the same time of this full moon, Mercury as well. We're feeling the effects of our family, blood or not blood related, and the lack of support, what have you in these areas. So who are the people that we feel that are connected with us? And when you allow yourself to manifest using the new moon in Pisces and the specific gate placement, it gives you a lens to kind of refine your manifestations, right? It's not that it's a bad thing to write down everything you want to accomplish throughout your lifetime. during, a full moon, or I should say rather a new moon cycle, but really being realistic about when you look at it through this lens, how can I chip away at my to-do list because we have many years to live, right? Hopefully, we don't know how much time we have, but we want to get the biggest bang for our buck in the moments that we have these transits, right? And it's really focusing on who are the people that I want to keep around me? Who are the people that appreciate me? How can I show up in a way that's more aligned with the community that I want to create? It's going to be very community focused in the people that you want to have around you during this full moon. It's funny because in human design, a lot of you have heard me say before that gate 37 is the gate of the mouth. So food to these folks is very important. What they serve on the table, gathering around food, either no matter how big or small the buffet or the platters may be, there's always some sort of like yummy treat associated with people who have these gate placements naturally. So even creating some sort of ritual, especially if you are into any type of other practices, some sort of offering, right, where you use food as a main conduit or amp up the food aspect of these manifestations, or the things that you give away in your altar spaces, right, as an offering, also can be really important during this time. Also really good and beneficial about this placement is that it teaches us what a good give and take is. So it's kind of like an I scratch your back, you scratch mine when used in its exalted state. It's exceptionally true for anyone who has this full channel or the channel of community in human design. So making sure that, when you say and write down your manifestations, I know that I want to accomplish this and this is what I'm willing to do with this expected outcome in return. And kind of journaling like that. I'll walk my people in Patreon, or those of you who are watching this that join our new moon circle, we're going to walk through some specific questions for you to journal on, to highlight this in your chart and to highlight this in your manifestations, more importantly, to focus on what is the even exchange here and how do you feel about it. So what's interesting is when we're also looking at the events that lead up to this from a human design perspective, specifically the transit that's happening on February 20th, both of those gate placements in which Jupiter and Mercury sit actually formulate a channel. So a couple of these transits formulate channels, right? We have our Earth placement, gate 40, our Sun and our Moon placement, gate 37, creating the 4037 channel. But then we also have Jupiter as well as Mercury creating the channel of transitoriness. Both of these are emotional waves. Actually, any channel that you see coming from the solar plexus or the emotional center is one that creates an emotional wave, which therefore can make people an emotional authority, right? Like this is a chart, or anyone who would be born at exactly the time of the new moon, this is what their chart would look like if they were born in New York City the evening of February 27th. So it's interesting to kind of think about it from an emotional perspective, right? Pisces being a mutable sign, that's very emotional. It makes sense that we have a lot of activation in our emotional center. We have gate 22, which is where Saturn is right now in the gate of grace and charm, but it's also the gate of knowing when and with whom you want to connect with others, doing things when you're in the mood for them. Gate 36, gate of crises. I say Pisces crises. I have a couple, Destiny, shout out to Destiny in our Patreon, who's a beautiful manifester that has gate 36 as her personality sun, really triaging when she's getting into crises, who you want to help, right? What crises you want to solve. That's really important for people who have this Pisces gate placement as well. So whereas in the full moon and Leo video, I walked you through all 6 of the iterations, I'm bouncing around here because we have a lot of Pisces gate activations, not just with the moon sign, but within our other placements that are transiting Pisces too. You hear a lot of astrologers that are mentioning the Pisces pile up, right? Or just for the helpful alliteration to show us how much is being activated in Pisces at this time. And it's really focusing on what can I do to ground myself. I think it's also, being a Pisces myself, right, a little bit helpful to lighten the mood. But if people aren't used to working with water or used to elements of water, they can, go from having a nice fresh glass after they were doing a workout and that's how water nourishes them, or they feel like it's a total tsunami knocking them over. It really depends on the person and how willing they are to be mutable or to lean in, even if they don't have mutable placements, to what Pisces and the transitory nature of Pisces has to offer them during this time with the new moon. It's also interesting because one of the other aspects, or where our gate that Neptune is sitting in Pisces, Neptune being ruler of Pisces, right? is in the G center, gate of the spirit of the self. And this is a gate placement that you'll notice is all about like surrendering to love, the embodiment of love. It's like that kind of like Jesus-y element of like being the best person that you can be, surrendering to being the embodiment, incarnate version of love. I can't mention that enough with this gate placement. And so that's the gate placement that actually takes us out of Pisces season into Aries season. So we'll also see that for people who are born in the later part of March, especially people that have the right angle cross of the vessel of love too, have this gate placement in their incarnation cross. The two other gates that I'll mention that will flavor this season of Pisces, I post on my Patreon the gate transits every week to get you guys familiar with the energies at play here. The first one that we felt already at this point is actually gate 55, gate of spirit, where 25 gate of the spirit of the self. That activation in gate 55 that we'll feel, it's not activated during the day of the full moon, but again, in Pisces season, nonetheless, as we go through the Pisces transits, gate 55 is also very similar to what I mentioned with gate 22, which is this feeling of like when I do things when I have the spirited mood to do them. And that's why Pisces get that judgment that they're edgy or very moody, because their moods can change very quickly, right? It doesn't take a lot for them to get their feathers ruffled. And this is coming from a Pisces with 3 planets in Pisces. So I could speak from true experience in this one here. And knowing that it's a time for all of us to practice that when we feel a little bit edgier than normal. Remembering this is a time for me to vocalize what my boundaries are, and I don't have to go for the jugular with people. I don't have to automatically assume that I have to be on the defensive all the time. Now, being aware and being alert, street smart, and emotionally in tune is a beneficially impactful combination to have during Pisces season. Not letting paranoia get the best of you is also going to be a big focus during this new moon in Pisces. And thinking about when I know that I put my own oxygen mask on first, right? I know that I can control what happens to me to the best of my ability. If not the actions of things that happen to me, I can control my reaction to it, how I show up for myself during this new moon in Pisces and Pisces season in general. Practicing this now will help you to feel even more grounded for the transits that are coming up in late March and early April too, and just for the rest of the year, right? I think if anything that this year has taught us up until this point, it's getting yourself incredibly grounded and realizing that you have so much more control than you think that you do when you practice regulation of your nervous system. And I know that's such an overused phrase right now, but from the lens of Piscean energy, from me to you, and looking at the transits of our human design body graph as someone who has a gate 63 in Pisces, the one I haven't mentioned yet is a gate of doubt, gate of skepticism. It's looking at the things that happen, the things that we consume, in life, literally, figuratively, mentally, emotionally, with a level of healthy doubt and skepticism. It's not a time to doubt yourself. People will feel tempted to, especially for my early March Piscean babies like myself, right? But a time to say, well, I feel doubt about this thing or person or place doesn't make me feel excited, whether it's someone that comes across your news feed on, shorts or some other application, or somebody that you has a proposal for you and you may feel like, oh, this just makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I don't want to rush things. This new moon in Pisces is an incredibly great time for you to ground yourself in knowing how to use your discernment. Discernment is such a key word. I had a friend that made a bracelet for me for my birthday a few years ago. That's an Aries, gate 24 or 25, excuse me, Aries sun. That's an artist. And the word I chose back in, this is 2021, I think, was discernment. And it's a word that's totally carried me through. And those of you who know my placements more personally, you know how much that makes sense. But for all of us, it's the word that I'll gift you with from me to you to make yourself aware. And the thing that I want you to notice when I say those things is what one of two things happen. If you feel empowered by that and you're like, okay, I'm ready to take this on, or you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a little bit paranoid. Like, how do I, I don't want to have to discern. I don't want to do that. And if you're somebody who feels the latter and oftentimes feels like things are happening to you, not for you, I want to encourage you to take your control of your life and know that to be a little bit more serious with that during this time is really important. And again, to remind yourself that you have so much more control over your energy and your day than you think that you do, right? And to really, where I'm giving you again the lenses, I say this often, a pair of beautifully crafted emerald green sunglasses, right? With a little bit of the luck of the Irish to use those lenses and really look at who you invest your time in, who you invest your energy in, the media that you're consuming, and how much that plays into this sense of paranoia, right? And not letting yourself get dragged around mentally by that and knowing that you have control over that. And so I will present you with that homework, with that challenge, if you're willing to answer the call and you're feeling a little bit paranoid during this time. And for my fellow practitioners that I know watch this and we have discussions about, transits in astrology and human design, to remember that like a lot of people are feeling this, a lot of people are pushing back. You see it across every platform and every comment section. There's always going to be people that feel that paranoia. And, if we have anything to do with it, it's helping relieving that paranoia for people, and allowing them to know that they have more control than they think that they do if they're willing to also, with the transits I mentioned, Mercury conjunct Saturn, if they're also willing to do the homework, if they're interested in getting better, not just, passively saying, I want help, and then not doing anything with it and incorporating it into their day. And really, it doesn't take much more hard work than just bringing awareness to your forward thinking front of your mind to what's going on, right? And if people, have the capacity to do that, I think those who truly want to do better, they, even if they don't have capacity, they find a way to make it. So the last thing that I'll kind of wrap up with here to just give you a little bit of the flavor and understanding of the new moon in Pisces is that focus on the people, places, and things that you want around you that are creating your community, whether it's the community of thoughts in your mind, the community of physical people, mentors, teachers, friends, family around you, and being aware of planting seeds and manifesting good community, good communion with other people, ways that you can invest in your space, right? Even if your community is you and your furry friend, your furry son, my furry cat that I'm gesturing to over here, that you guys have seen grace on my lives. And really being aware of that with this new moon and kind of looking at it through that lens. Where can you get more support energetically, emotionally, spiritually, and having just a little bit more faith in knowing that there are still good people out there that are willing to support you. I've created my whole Patreon community off of that philosophy. And for me, it's like the more people I have in there that are like-minded, that, are willing to do the work and even just show up for themselves. Sometimes just showing up, to me, them doing the work is showing up once per month to a training or watching one of my videos that are recorded. Like that to me is part of the work. And sometimes just ripping off the band-aid and doing that one small step that helps you feel better with people that you know, like, and trust can be incredibly grounding during a time that feels a little all over the place. Not letting yourself get, disoriented. Affirmational hiccup during this time is also going to be really important. So for those of you who have tuned in up until this point, thank you so much for watching. And I will be live on YouTube every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time for a couple hours. Thank you to those who tuned in at this point. This past Wednesday and the Wednesday before, I've been practicing a little bit of my psychic gifts and doing my human design hotline. So as always, have a very blessed new moon in Pisces. If you are not a member of my Patreon, but you want to join us, there's a link to that in the comments below. But all of my new and full moon circles are free, as included in the $22 a month membership for each of my energy types in human design. And we all come together as a human design community, all 5 energy types, to manifest with the new moon in Pisces. So thank you so much. And I will talk to you guys soon.